Thank you very much for joining us on the Voice of Job Seekers. This is the 2020 edition, starting in January 20th. Today is the first episode of the winter edition, and I thank you very much for joining us. If you want to know more about me and the podcast, you can go to voiceofjobseekers.com. You can also comment on the speak pipe button that's to the right. You can also email me at mark@thevoiceofjobseekers.com. You can also call me at 708-935-9811. I'm sorry, 9822. Somehow, all these years, I just can't get that number right. Anyhow, I want to introduce the panel where we'll be talking about job search trends for 2020. And first up will be Sarah Johnston. I'll have her introduce herself, and then Hannah, and then Niatu third.
All right. Great. Well, I'm really excited to be here. I'm Sarah Johnston. I am a job search coach and resume writer. Prior to launching my business, The Briefcase Coach, I was a corporate recruiter. And so I have the background of recruiting and also the experience of being a job seeker myself.
My name is Hannah Morgan, and I am a job search strategist and social media strategist as well. I have my own company called CareerSherpa.net, and so I focus on helping people understand how to look for work better. There are a lot of modern trends that we want to be aware of, and it's my mission to sort of keep people in the know.
All right, and I'm Niatu Benciential. I'm the founder of AvenirCareers.com, and my background includes mental health counseling. And so in my approach, I really want to take into account the whole person. You're more than just your career. So the emotional and the personal will also be dealt with along with the practical pieces of looking for a job. And I'm a job search coach as well and resume writer. And I'm really excited for this opportunity to be here and help people kick off their 2020 and make some moves and get a new job.
And my name is Michael Jackson, and just kidding. Of course, everybody knows me. All right. So first subject. Everybody, if you've creeped around LinkedIn, you can't avoid job search advice, and it comes by the droves. And I guess it depends on who you connect with, is the amount of job search information that you get. Other than if you link to blogs or you read blogs or that you read Facebook or some of the other places where you would go for job search advice. And of course, there are a few smart people out there that actually maybe have a Twitter list where they can go and connect with their favorite writers and coaches and consultants and also connect with job search advice that they need. But there's some job search advice that is ineffective. We all know that, and I try not to talk a lot about how much it is or isn't right, but try to redirect people to something that might be a little bit more effective. Or if I don't know, I've on several occasions would send them to one of you guys for great advice. But in your estimation, we'll start with Hannah with a job search advice that you see that just seems off the mark.
You're right. There's a lot of advice that's probably not serving people well. It's hard to pin that down. So I'm just going to start by saying that a lot of the job seekers that I've worked with and the people that reach out to me say, hey, will you review my resume because I'm getting ready to do my job search? And I ask, well, what kind of work are you looking for? And they say, well, it doesn't really matter. I'll do anything, but can you just look at my resume? And that whole logic today doesn't work. You really have to know what it is you want to do. And spend the time figuring that out before you can write a resume. That's been my sort of big thing.
The lack of focus. Is that
or no focus? Yeah.
Yeah, the lack of focus that echoes with everybody pretty much, right? The idea that there's a lack of focus. A focused resume definitely is much more effective than a unfocused resume. Well, the idea is still, it's unbelievable to me that people are still we can list them off. They're copying and pasting from job descriptions. They're actually entities that serve certain niches that actually encourage this behavior.
Can I just say one other thing? I
Yeah.
saw a recruiter, a woman who says she's a recruiter and she also does resume writing.
Uh-huh.
And she said, little tip here, folks, copy and paste the entire job description, post it at the bottom of your resume and make the font white. Who does that? Like that? No.
Yeah, that's an easy way to, especially if you're just applying through job boards. It's a periled.
I want to piggyback off of what Hannah said, and I think this is important. So obviously I write resumes and I value them. I think having a good strategic document is so important. But you actually made a post recently, Hannah, on LinkedIn about the value of a job search strategy plan. And so many people think the resume is the answer and the resume is going to get them a job, but the resume is really just a strategic marketing document that you use to get the job. And so you have to have a well executed plan in order to get your resume in the hands of the right people. And so I think that's a really big step that some people miss.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Sarah just contributed, part of being strategic is knowing where you want to apply. So not only having a targeted resume, but I like to have my clients start with target companies. So it's one of the very first things I go over with my clients. I like to, ask them, where do you love to work? What companies have you had your eye on, been a fan of, for a few years, let's say, and you want to start building that list. And so when it comes down to actually writing your resume, you have perhaps a more finite group of companies you're targeting. That's less customization across the board. And to Hannah's point, then you can really dive in and heavily customize that document to target it at the needs, the gaps, and the challenges that a particular company is facing. And so it's one of the best tactics or strategies you can take to having a more successful job search. And as Sarah's saying, getting your resume into the right hands with that strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people, we have so many more tools now than we did back in 2010 when I first started, because back then, and this is still a good strategy, is to be able to use a word cloud, right? To be able to take your resume, paste it to see what words are emphasized. Then came JobScan with their tool, which allows us to, you can upload your resume, upload the job description, and you can do a side-by-side comparison practically, right? So that makes it much more effective. But there are other tools too, if I'm forgetting them, but I think that's the one I refer people to often is the JobScan tool.
Yeah, thumbs up to JobScan. I think it just helps make that process of identifying important words so crystal clear.
Yeah. And
I'll add though that I love JobScan and I think it's a really great tool, but if someone's new to using it, you don't need to strive to get 100%. Like I have never had a resume get 100%.
Right.
It's really a guide and you want to make sure that you're using it to identify words that you may be missing and you don't necessarily need to have all the words that they're suggesting.
Right.
So let's talk about the other tool that people are confused about is LinkedIn, because I've heard people tell me, I'm on LinkedIn, I have a profile, but nobody's hiring me.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not really how LinkedIn works. So
yeah, keyword usage is underutilized still and still underserved as far as that being a part of the discussion, which people think that just write a resume and you write a profile and then boom, employees will magically see you with a halo on top of your head and say, this is the one I need to hire. And it doesn't work that way.
I see a lot of job seekers lose their job and immediately change their headline to seeking employment or seeking new opportunities. Well, the thing is you're missing out on keyword optimization. Recruiters are not looking for a supply chain executive by using the search term seeking new opportunities. They're searching for Lean Six Sigma or supply chain executives to make sure that you're using the words that somebody would actually search for.
Right. When I work with clients, so one of the things I really, really stress is doing competitive research amongst your peers within your industry. So, for example, if you are a marketing manager and you want to get to a director of marketing position, it might do you very well to look up to search using the people search function, director of marketing, and see who pops up on the first 1 or 2 pages of results, and examine their profiles. How are they positioning themselves with their headline? How are they writing their summaries? What are the key skills they're listing their skills and endorsement section? And you try to glean from them and pull from them what is making them appear on page 1 of their results. And you can take those elements of their profiles that are successful and that resonate with you, and of course skills that you have. We don't want you fudging data on your profiles, but if these are skills and abilities you have, add them to your profile. You're going to boost your keyword richness, and it'll be easier for you to be found on LinkedIn. I'm sure many of you will attest to this. You have to be active on LinkedIn as well, which I believe what Hannah was getting at. So I love to hear you talk about what activity on LinkedIn might even look like.
Right. I think that, and you're not at all advocating copying and pasting.
Oh, no, definitely not. Not copying and pasting.
But you're seeing how that person positions himself.
Him or herself.
That you're able to, and actually you can upload that person's LinkedIn profile to see what kind of keywords are dominate or draw people to, or what recruiters may be drawn to with their profile, and then think how that applies to your career and not mimic someone else's. I actually had a client once who actually says, I want my profile to look like hers. I said, that's not going to work real well,
right?
Because you don't have her credentials for one. So
that's really hard.
Yeah. We could start right there, and that it just went downhill. But I think those elements are really important. So really, so that kind of brings on to the discussion too. Is that now is there a even grayer line, or maybe even a wider line, depending on how you look at it, between a resume and LinkedIn?
They're two different things, really. Right. I mean, I think that there's some overlap, but I think that if you're thinking about it, this is just my take, and I'd love to hear what you guys think too, because as I sort of think about it, there's a difference. The resume is a piece of paper that you're submitting when there's a job posting. So it's that sort of response to the job posting, and it's highly customized to show that you have the experience that they're looking for. The LinkedIn profile is online content. It is a personal portfolio. It is you and everything about you, the good, the bad, the relevant, the not so relevant. I mean, there's probably not as much of that, but it really is a living, breathing online piece of content.
But it doesn't really become a portfolio either until you make it one, until you start to show some samples of what you.
Well, that's what I want people to do. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and it should be a portfolio.
And I think you said that at least once a week for the past 8 weeks now. that you need to show your work. You need to show portfolios. It tells me what kind of work you do. But without it, it's no longer. It's just a presence. It's not a portfolio.
And I'll add to what Hannah said. I heard William Arruda say that your LinkedIn profile is often your digital first impression. So before you go to a networking meeting in person, you often go online and you Google someone and you find their LinkedIn page and you read about them and you learn more about them before you meet them in person. When I write summaries for clients, I often write them in the first person and think of it as they're going to a networking event. They're meeting the most important person at the party. What would they say to them? What would their story be if they met someone at an event? And that's what your summary statement should be. It should be your who, your what, your why, and keywords.
Right.
Yes. Go ahead.
I think of it as being, in essence, your professional personality. I think it's really a chance to showcase, who you are, not just your skill set, but also what you believe in. So, to Sarah's point, this is about talking the first person. It's about stating what you believe, stating what your interests are, stating what your passions are, not necessarily using that word because we all use it, but making it very clear, what it is that is your animating force, right? And that will give people the opportunity to be attracted to that animating force if you are true and genuine in how you communicate it through your profile. So whether that's working with one of us to help you write it or taking a stab at it yourself, you want to leave what impression you want people to have after they read your profile. And if you start with that end in mind, it'll help you really, deliver a really strong presentation of yourself, as your first impression. People click on your LinkedIn profile.
That's a competing force, I think. Nitu, you really hit the nail hard on this one in mentioning personality. I think there's a lot of data that's often given by people, but there's not enough personality to go along with the data. In other
Hmm.
words, the recruiter, they're not going, they're going to look for, they're going to do cold searches, but most people, especially employers, are not going to know who you are till they get a resume and that they're considering you. And that really, isn't it sort of like if I have two LinkedIn profiles and one that has more personality than the other one, I'm going to
Hmm.
feel more comfortable in wanting to talk to that person a little bit more.
Right.
Everybody agrees?
Ab- Absolutely.
Definitely.
And Sarah, do you do storytelling? Can you talk a little bit about the value of storytelling, because that's such a huge thing in today's market?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think people resonate and connect when you tell a story. It's different than if you just state the facts. If you like, you could state that you did X, Y, and Z, but if you capture people's attention with a story, they're going to click because LinkedIn only shows you 3 sentences of a summary statement. You have to actually click to read more. So if you start with a hook, something that's engaging, they're going to want to click to read more about you. They're going to be more engrossed in who you are, and they're going to be more connected to you as a person. So I think stories are so powerful.
Stories are very powerful, and actually, it engages people a whole lot more when
Mhm.
you are telling something that has a climax, and even sometimes that may even have an antagonist and a protagonist in a sense. Maybe you're
Hmm.
not making a single person a protagonist, but a circumstance can be an antagonist, and that you're trying that you're the hero in that particular story, and that's sort of the essence of it all, shouldn't it be?
Mhm.
And
Yes,
marketing and folks in marketing are really focused on storytelling because people will remember stories. We're hardwired to remember stories because they evoke emotion, all the other wonderful things Sarah said. So stories are so powerful. And I think we're afraid, we've been conditioned over the course of our careers that the job search is strictly, this black and white kind of resume stuff. But it's more than that because people hire people.
Mhm.
Yes,
right.
absolutely. So, Sarah, let's move to the section where we talk about some of the best tactical and strategic moves. If you can name something that really has that you've seen that's really worked in 2019, and if you see it evolving in 2020, what would that strategy be?
The most common mistake, I'll start with a mistake first. The most common mistake I hear people say is, "Oh, I've applied for 200 jobs online and nobody's calling me back. I'm so depressed." And the reason that this is I don't want to use the word fruitless, but an effort that is not, it doesn't produce as much fruit as the method I'm about to talk about, is that applicant tracking systems have changed the way that the job search occurs.
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago, when I was recruiting, we would have a position that we'd post and we'd maybe get 20 applicants for that role. In
Mm-hmm.
today's time, because applicant tracking systems have made it so easy to apply for jobs and have made job postings accessible to so many, you may get 150 applicants to that same job that we got 20 applicants to 10 years ago. So
Hmm.
the competition for roles is so much greater. And if you're just applying for jobs online, you're going to not feel successful and it's going to take you longer. Where I see job seekers in today, 2019, having success is building out targeted lists like Nitu mentioned earlier, asking yourself, where would I actually like to work and who hires people like me? And creating that target list of, and I like to say 25 to 35. And it depends on your industry. You may be in a really niche industry
Mm-hmm.
where there may be only 10 companies that hire people like you, but 25 to 35 target companies, and then taking it a step further and building out 2 separate lists. Who can I meet with who can make some introductions for me? And who works at these target companies who would potentially be my boss? And LinkedIn is such a great tool in today's time for finding those target people and doing that target research. I like to say that old school skills are new school. And so, whereas everybody's going to AI and talking about AI. I think there's a lot of value in old school networking and just having face-to-face conversations with people.
Absolutely. And I think it's